Well, our top story today from the GatewayPundit.com. Watch as Macron's wife, Brigitte, smacks him in the face as they arrive in Vietnam and then refuses to hold his hand. We're talking about this story and so much more here on the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Gateway Pundits Week in Review, where we cover the top stories of the last 24 hours. I'm joined today by a co-host. He's a contributor for RiffTV.com, Kai Schwemmer. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Elijah. I'm excited.
Awesome. As we talked about this story, obviously you mentioned you'd never seen Macron's wife before. This is quite interesting for all of us. Check this out. Paul Sarin reports that Macron's wife, Brigitte, smacked him in the face as they arrived in Vietnam. Now, some people just say that's what it's like being raised by Vietnamese women. Just smack you in the face for refusing to clean. But jokes aside, people are wondering, is there trouble in paradise? And perhaps because she's so prone to violence, is she really a man? Check out this video clip that we have showing the altercation that occurred. It's originally posted by RT Russia Today. It's been slowed down for your consumption. Watch. So you see him opening this up from their private jet, and then boom, she smacks his face, and then they wave to everybody. So alleged reports are they knew it was his wife because someone said, "Damn, those hands be big." No, people don't know what's going on here. There's a lot of talk here, Kai. But I think this is kind of the point here. There's two aspects to this. Number one, we have to talk about domestic violence with women towards men. It's a real big problem that continues to happen, and I think people don't acknowledge it. But also, two, reminding you that people act real nice in front of the public and that they got their lives together. But these people are vicious. They're willing to kill, and they're definitely not treating each other well. I think this is a sign that, there's a lot more to the picture than we see.
Yeah, there's a real problem with the power dynamic in general when if you are the wife or the husband of a public official, the fact that you think that you can just do that, knowing that your husband represents something, this is not to talk about whether Macron's politics are okay, but he represents a nation, right? He represents a people. And you have to have an insane amount of entitlement to believe that you can just go around abusing this public official that way, divorcing yourself from the reality of how that reflects upon your people and your nation. I think that's crazy.
But they thought no one was looking. So that's kind of like what the point is that people act a certain way when they think nobody's looking. Mm-hmm. But then when he realizes that, someone's watching, it's also to remind you, I don't know if everybody's in the same simulation, but husbands need to step up and lead their wives. Because if you can't even lead your wife, if your wife's hitting you in the face, I don't believe that you have the authority in your cabinet or with the men around you to wield power and control. And I don't mean this in some sort of ostensibly sexist way towards the audience, but men are leaders of women, and we are supposed to be the hierarchy of the family. It is a conservative position. And then it's dude, you're getting slapped in the face by your wife. It makes me wonder, what blackmail do they have on him? And maybe he's just a puppet.
Yeah. Well, and I'm very prone to believing that these things aren't maybe as accidental as we might see them. Obviously he's caught off guard, but I think it's pretty realistic that there were cameras watching, and he should at least know that, the doors of your plane are about to open. You should be pretty conscious. And I think she was conscious of it. It's easy to play off as if, this is just something that might happen privately, or maybe it was a private conversation. But it's also, that also speaks to the fact that anything you do privately is going to manifest itself in your public life eventually. And what you were talking about is absolutely true. If a man doesn't have control of his home, or if he is not in a true natural relationship or in a positive relationship with his wife behind the scenes, that's eventually going to bleed into his public life. That's absolutely going to become a point where, who's really running it? Who's really running, the relationship? Who's really running the country? I think we have a long history in the United States, for example, of women maybe exerting too much influence on a presidency. And we could certainly look, at the last 4 years with Joe Biden. Are we really thinking, especially now with the articles about his cognitive decline being admitted even by Democrats, who was right next to him the entire time? Dr. Jill Biden.
Dr. Jill Biden, and a son who smoked crack. True. Which is, quite frankly, he's the most interesting Biden. That's totally aside. I do agree with you about the woman dynamics. And also look at Barack. Barack is also married to a man, allegedly, right?
Some are saying.
We're not saying here at this network because that would be considered inappropriate. But
we've heard it said.
The jokes are, I'll just say this. I've seen Michelle's back, and it's goals. I want that back for myself. And as a man, I've never seen a woman's back and wanted that similar structure for my own back. She is a athletically built beast of a woman, right? But you see a lot of these weird power dynamics with the wives, throughout history. Now, speaking of that, guys, many of you do know that somebody who does have a beautiful wife, who is feminine, is none other than Donald Trump. And a lot of you have walked around, you try to put on the Trump hat, it causes problems. Maybe your kids, they make rules against the hats in school because, you can't wear a hat in school, but you want to show your support for Trump. Maybe you just like what Trump's done. You like the fact that he beat Kamala. It doesn't really matter what your motivation is, but right now these Trump Never Surrender Gold limited edition sneakers are a bold patriotic statement with a metallic finish, red and white blue accents. They're comfortable, durable, and lightweight. They're also perfect for daily wear and sparking conversations. I gotta say, you're not gonna wear these shoes and someone's not gonna point out that you're wearing them. Like, people will notice them. They're gonna shine, they're gonna be blingy, but not too much, right? You don't look like you're from the hood. This is like a classier way to look like sort of a collegiate, country club way to show a little bit of bling. That's what I say. Now, the Never Surrender slogan inspires resilience. It also makes them ideal for Trump supporters or bold styled lovers, limited to only 1,000 numbered pairs. They are exclusive and collectible. Grab yours today at themagaoffers.com/GP, THEMAGAOFFERS.com/GP, with up to 15% off using our Pundit's link. Act fast, they're selling out. Now, that being said, in other news, terrifying video was posted of a robbery and a beating of a uniformed NYPD officer. One suspect has been identified by police. Kristen Taylor reports that a terrifying video early Saturday morning of a robbery and beating of does that say uniformed? I almost wrote uninformed. Off-duty New York City housing police officer in the Bronx was posted Sunday night by a retired NYPD cop. Check this out. We have the footage here. It's rather violent. Viewer discretion's advised. So you can see the man is being beaten and completely, taken advantage of right in the open street. And this is all too common in the cities in the United States. Kai, I go to you for a second here. It's like, they say that in the last days lawlessness will abound, but it does seem like that, right? Doesn't it? In our cities, it does seem like the good are persecuted and the evil get away with a lot of things. They say, getting away with murder. They literally are.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a whole problem in the discourse that we have around, especially in these major cities, around crime. Any moment that somebody thinks that, mass incarceration is more of a problem than mass criminality, than mass crime, you just can't even have a conversation. One has, perhaps a negative look. The effect appears negative because there might be a disproportionality in who is being perhaps targeted. But you're going to end up safer. Anybody is going to end up safer. And if we continue to talk about crime as if, well, the way we respond to it, really, we ought to improve that, and we're less concerned with the people being murdered, this off-duty police officer, who, by the way, I think didn't even put up a fight, because if they had, what would have happened? They would have been taken to court. They would have lost their job. This happens all the time. The police have been neutered in these giant cities, and that encourages this vicious cycle.
Frankly. I do agree. I think that people are not willing to fight back. Also, you've seen like with Carmelo Anthony, you might escalate a situation and then you could end up, going from being robbed to being homicided, right? So there's a big juxtaposition between the two experiences. I have to say, if a black person like that, approaches you and wants your items, just give them to them. It's not really a point to try to lose your life over a $1,200 phone or over your wallet. I just got robbed the other day again by NASA astronaut, by the way. Wonderful fellow, beautiful. He also, his hair was they would use him on the missions to hold on to when they were spacewalking because his hair was made of ropes.
Real.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Form and function.
One of those astronauts. Yeah. He was because he was in zero G. His face was he had a real serious face going on. But he stole my wallet, and no one's really safe in the United States, and it really comes down to it's really not just a crime problem; it is a racial problem too. Crime is disproportionate to certain ethnicities. If you took away Hispanic and Black crime from the United States, America would be safer than Norway. So. I'm just saying, I think we ought to be honest that, crime has a source. There are people who are committing most of it. And unless we're willing to have those honest conversations, then we can expect to continue to be raped, killed, and robbed.
Yeah, it's a big problem because when people go and they start to study these kinds of things, the worry of being called racist will impede their ability to speak objectively about the facts. There's plenty of studies that will go out trying to prove that black people are disproportionately targeted by police. And that is not at all to excuse or to minimize the fact that there are police officers that mistreat people. They mistreat people in many cases, and it's not just black people. But it is to say that when people go out and they try to find a conclusion of systemic racism, they're also trying to minimize the actual effect of the violence in these places. And that does a disservice to everybody. The people on the left are not wrong to point out as a rebuttal that, well, but the black crime, isn't necessarily always disproportionately against white people. Yeah, but what are you doing? Are you just like in favor of black people committing more crime against other black people?
Correct.
Their worldview absolutely defeats itself at every turn. Nobody is defended when we try to minimize the effects of crime.
No, and that's true. And that being said, in conclusion, if you want to read one more story on our website, you can watch as a school board member loses a grip on reality over prayer before meeting. This, to me, is very disturbing. You can read the rest of those reports at thegatewaypundit.com. Don't forget, if you want to join our mug club, you can grab one of these mugs at thegatewaypundit.com. What you're going to do is when you go to the main website, at the very front page, you'll see a little button at the upper top corner that says Get Ad Free. You can see it highlighted in yellow. When you click on that, you'll go down here and you can get for just $7.99 a month this mug, plus you support independent media and journalism. My name is Elijah Schaffer. If you want to follow me, you can find me on X at Elijah Schaffer, ElijahSchaffer. It's a great app. You can hear my crazy thoughts, although they do not reflect this network or their opinions, I'd like to say. And my guest today, Kai Schwemmer, for a special segment. How can people find and follow you?
On the exact same website, X, and you can find me at Kai Schwemmer. That's KAISCHWEMMER. Over there, I also will link you to places that I've streamed or any of the campuses that I'll be speaking up in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Kai, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Elijah.
And to the rest of you guys watching, have a great rest of the week as always, and may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.